Wonderful. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you, everyone. So good to be back after a little break. So you'll have to bear with me. I have a little bit of a head cold. Hopefully it won't get in the way too much. So one of the subjects that came up over the break, and several times while I was in India, I just wanted to talk about it a little bit, and then I'll open it up, see if there's any questions here live tonight or this afternoon, wherever you are. But this subject came up a few times, and it wasn't really clear to me, this particular subject either, when I was really trying to break through. So I thought it might be helpful just to discuss it a little bit. And that was it goes something like this, that if I'm already the infinite self, what are we actually doing here? What is the point of this practice? And if I'm already where I'm trying to reach, what is the point of all this self-inquiry, meditation, and things like that? And when I really looked at that myself, I had to admit that I didn't really know what's the point of doing any kind of meditation if it's only going to help me see what I already am, or self-inquiry or contemplation or anything that we're doing to further and deepen our awakening. So for me, that became quite important. What am I so devoted to if I don't actually know why I'm doing any of this? So when I really investigated this, I found that my real self, what I really am, this infinite, formless, aware, sentient, no thingness, that there is only one of. It's the only thing that exists, and it's what each of us is. And even the word each implies that there are many beings, but there is just one being here that is intangible and formless. And we might know to whatever extent that we are already that. But the purpose of all this inquiry and questioning and meditation is to allow our body and minds to reflect that, so that we can live consciously as that. What does that involve? Well, it involves breaking down this very rigid way that we have before we come into living as the self, of thinking about ourselves, about each other, about the world, and perhaps most especially about awakening. So we all have set ways of thinking about ourselves and the world. And that way, those set and very rigid ways that we have to begin to break down. And that is the purpose really of all spiritual practice. All spiritual practice is going to bring us to authentic spiritual practice, at least, bring us to a place where we're willing to question any thought at all that we may have. And once we are willing to question any thought or every thought, then this very solid, rigid, egoic structure, a sense of separate self, has begun to dissolve and become more fluid. It's like our thought constructed self starts off as this big wall. Behind this wall is the infinite light of your real self. In front of this wall is your body and your life. And this wall is made up of all the ways we think, and it's so dense, so thick that we almost totally block this light from shining through the body and mind and living consciously in peace. We can never really fully block that light, but that's as far as the analogy can go for now. And when we're willing to question certain thoughts, willing to see what's actually true, it's like taking a brick out of this wall. Sometimes you just take one brick out at a time. Certain questions are pulling out whole sections of this wall. So we can question one particular way that we think. Perhaps we might question if we really have to get somewhere to achieve awakening, or is it more about a seeing of what's already so? Or we might ask an even more direct question, such as, who is it that's even seeking? Do I even need to wake up to the truth? And that kind of question will bring the whole wall down if you let it. So you might already be this infinite self, the same as me, the same as everything. This pure awareness, this consciousness that is omnipresent, omnipotent, and is the only thing that exists. It's what all bodies and minds are made out of. Everything is made out of it. Yet to live consciously as that, we have to begin to dissolve our thought constructed self, which doesn't let this light flow through. Everything we think we know and are certain of blocks this light from living as our life. The peace, the joy, the sense of not being affected by anything that's going on in manifestation at all. Although we still love and care about what's going on, we're not suffering from it. So this thought constructed self is what we really need to dissolve. If we're willing to do that, and it feels a little weird because it feels like we're taking apart our own self. We've really identified with this thing that we're calling a wall or thought constructed self. This is me. And if I question this, I'm losing me, and it feels a little risky. It feels scary until you start to do it. And then you start to realize that with every brick that goes out of this wall, there is more peace, more joy, more love. And that who you are is the light and not this thought constructed self anyway. So you're not really losing anything by dismantling this. The sense of self becomes much more fluid, and it's something that you can use then to move around the world and communicate. And it can no longer cause suffering because we're not rigidly holding on to any set point of view. If we look at the things that we're most sure about, the ways that our thinking is very, very set. For me, when I asked myself this question, it was quite surprising. The sense that I was never going to make it to awakening. I was so sure of that. A sense that everyone was in front of me and I was the only one not getting it. That was something I was very, very certain of. The sense that I wouldn't be brave enough or have enough courage to let go of all thoughts. The sense that it was impossible to function in the world without any thoughts. All of these things I was so absolutely certain of. And human beings are really strange sometimes, aren't we? We tend to hold on to the thoughts that cause us most pain. And these ones that cause us a lot of pain, like the sense that we're not good enough, there's something wrong with us, then we can hold on to this with such a tenacity and judge everything that's happening in our awakening against this idea. Use everything that's happening or not happening to validate this idea that we're never going to make it, we're never going to succeed because we're just not, it's not our time to awaken. So one of the things I realized in taking apart my thought constructed self is that no thought applies to me, the infinite self. And that it was ultimately, thoughts are useful. I'm not against thoughts, but that I can't really rely upon them to help me navigate the world as my real self. Because all of my thoughts were talking about this packaged version of me. So I'm asking you now then, if you can feel a willingness inside, although it may feel unfamiliar, although it may feel strange, to take apart this sense of self a little bit more. What if what's waiting at the other side of that, a willingness to see what's really true? What if what's waiting at the other side of that is everything that you've ever wanted anyway? So if you've had a seeing of who you really are, or if you haven't yet, it doesn't really matter. The work in awakening is still the same always. We can have a profound seeing of who we are, but then we still have to let it flow through our thought structure. And then our body reflects what's going on in our thought structure. So our body will feel bad while we're believing these thoughts. As we're willing to question them, our body begins to feel lighter, more peaceful, more love, more joy. And we begin to experience harmony in our life, our relationships, abundance of all kinds. So that is the work of awakening, is cultivating the willingness to release any thought that we've been sure of. That may sound easy with some thoughts, not so easy with others. If I asked you to let go of this idea that you're not good enough to do this, to wake up to who you really are, or the idea that it's just not going to happen for you in this lifetime, would you give it to me, or would you still hold on to it somewhere? And of course, the answer to that is probably yes and no. Some part of us wants to let go. Some part of us wants to hold on to the familiar. So just cultivating a willingness to be without any reference point at all. What is it like to navigate the world without any thoughts going on or any thoughts being believed? What's it like to be yourself without any reference map of thoughts? What if you didn't know anything about yourself? Are you willing to live like that? Perhaps more and more each day, a little lighter, a little freer. So I just wanted to bring that up and to discuss it a little bit because it came, like I said, it came up several times and it really confused me at first in my own awakening. If I am already this, why do I need to do any practice? What is that all about? So I hope that was helpful. If anyone would like to discuss that more, or if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to share and discuss, I invite you to raise your hand here or just speak up. Feel free to ask anything about awakening, and we'll see what happens. Excuse me. Okay, I think Helena was first. Hi.
Hi, Helen. Hi. Thank you for that. That's it's actually it is really helpful. I'm trying to think of my question very quickly. What I'm finding, because I have had glimpses, and those glimpses help. And then, as you say, I come back to sorry.
I've got my cat trying to jump up right here, so I'm right there with you.
Well, he's hearing your voice and he's intrigued. So I come back to because I've also had epiphanies where I've just known something is the right thing, and then I come back to normal life or what I think is as normal life.
Yeah.
And decisions have to be made. It's complicated and I won't go into it, but I then start to question whether I'm saying, oh, that's an inspiration from God or from the higher self, and then I question whether I'm making that up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Been there, done that. Yeah.
And I can't tell the difference at the moment. Sometimes I can, because sometimes it's very clear.
So you can tell the difference, but it might be subtle right now. So if you have a genuinely inspired revelation or a thought, let's say you had an epiphany right now as we're talking, it would come with this lightness, this freshness, wouldn't it? This newness, a sense of newness.
Right.
And if you were to have the same old thoughts, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to get there, they come with a very stale, lower energy. So any kind of inspiration or something that, or any sense of knowing what to do if you need to make a decision, knowing what the right thing is going to come with a higher frequency. So you can literally feel out the options in your body and feel which one feels better rather than trying to think through the process. And even if you have 3 or 4 options seemingly available, you can feel those out inside or imagine taking those choices, and how does that feel? And your body will, sometimes quite subtle at first, but your body will always tell you which is the highest choice. And as you start to really get used to that feedback from your body, it will become louder and louder and just more clear. And of course, decision making, we all struggle with it, but ultimately, if you're not a separate being, then what's going to happen is going to happen, and you can't screw it up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
If it's not going to happen, there's nothing you can do to make it happen, which is also very reassuring in a way.
Yeah. That's another thing actually that I often think, if this is all a kind of choreographed dance and really I'm just surrendering to it and trusting, then there's nothing to think about anyway. Is that right?
Yep. You're the dancer, just have fun, right?
Yeah.
Of course, our mind forgets that and freaks out. And what am I supposed to do in this situation? But as you keep seeing who you really are more and more, and even the surrender then it is not really necessary for you, although it tends to happen in the mind. Then you're just watching the dance and dancing at the same time.
Watching the dance and dancing.
Just just practice playing around with the body's feedback. The body has a yes and a no, or right or wrong kind of feeling. You can try with some simple choices. Should I have this for dinner or this for dinner, and see what your body says, and then get used to that feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Nice to talk to you.
Thank you too.
Ghislaine,
Hello.
hi.
So now my mind wants to know, what is awakening? Like, what is
Could you?
happening?
Okay, sorry.
I'm not changing,
Mhm.
obviously. So nothing is happening to me, my essence, but my experience seems to be changing.
Yeah.
So what came to me when you were talking was, is awakening just the falling off of those beliefs, the lightening of the load of the beliefs, kind of?
In a way, yes. It is, as you see who you are clearer, then those beliefs are falling away anyway. And as those beliefs fall away, you see who you are clearer. So it's like a two-sided coin. You can either work on the thought structure, as we were saying, and work on the willingness to dissolve the beliefs. But then you see clearer who you are. Or if you see clearer who you are, the thoughts, you can't really believe them so much anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
there's always kind of both of those going on. Really, they're the same thing, but for sake of clarity, we discuss them as if they're two different things. So just the recognition of who you are, seeing that again and again through our inquiry or our practice, meditation or spontaneous insight, is going to, if you see that you're infinite and formless and everywhere, it's going to be harder and harder to believe that you're not going to make it to awakening. It's just kind of obvious, isn't it? If this is what I am, this really isn't what I am. It gets clearer and clearer.
So it's all that's happening. That's it. I'm seeing clearer what I am, and
Yeah, you're just
the
seeing.
beliefs are
You're
falling
just
off.
seeing. And as you see, because the body and mind are always reflecting who you know yourself to be. As you see yourself clearer, the body and mind can then reflect that clearer. We've had this root idea that we're a separate being, a someone, a person, trying to get to awakening or trying to get to some future moment where we feel better or whatever. And that idea is losing its grip more and more, and that just lets the light of who you really are shine through anyway, the body and mind, because you are this, but we want to consciously live as this and experience all the benefits of that, so to speak. That's all that's really happening.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Gaina?
Hello, hi everybody. Can you hear me all right?
I can, yep. Nice to talk to you.
You too. Yeah, so I just put my hand up. It's similar actually. When I think Helena, was it the lady at the beginning, talking, some of the things that she was saying were very similar to what I was going to talk about. So I've got quite a few big life decisions, I guess, or some big things going on in life all at the same time, which is quite a lot. And without going into like details of every single one, but it's causing, so my question at first was how, when you're in these situations, and I know there's other things I've spoke to you about things like this, but it's trying to think, right, okay, keep myself centered. What's my body trying to tell me, like you were just saying, and trying to listen to that rather than the mind, and trying to be open in what kind of, what may happen, and look at different scenarios and things like that. But I find myself, a couple of stumbling blocks really is that I find myself with my mind talking itself around in circles. So I could potentially be open about any situation because I think to myself, oh yeah, that could be it. So it's my mind talking about being open. It's not, I suppose, being open. So that was one thing I was gonna, like, how could I look, yeah. Have you got anything you could say that could help me with that?
Can you close to anything? Your mind can, of course, but can you?
No.
So you need to make that a no, like rather than a
Yeah.
no. Yeah. So, and I've been right there. If I know that whatever's going on in front of me in my mind has got nothing to do with me, and I'm just watching it have its,
Yeah.
do its loops, then I'm totally unmoved by whatever happens in the mind, even if it's obsessing over which decision to make or what if I make the wrong decision. So clear and clearer seeing. Let's look right now at what you really are. If you want to, we can look right now. Can it close or even open what you really are?
No.
That was more definite, right? That was more certain. And is it affected by what goes on in the mind, your real self?
No.
Tiny bit of doubt there. Could you feel that was just a little, not quite as certain?
Yeah.
So
I think
go ahead.
there's some distractions with about what's going on in the body, and because there's quite a bit of, this was one of the other things I was going to mention about when I'm trying to listen to the body, there's a lot of fear being felt, and it's felt quite physically in the body with a lot of shaking and pain and things like that. So I find it quite difficult to, yeah.
So the body is reflecting back to you that little bit of doubt that we heard only. Like, what if I screw this up? What if I don't make the right decision here? What, I've got this important thing to make. The body's kind of reflecting back to you just this slight bit of doubt that's in your consciousness. So your body's just the body's answer right now is it's asking you to be even more convinced of who you already are. So it's asking you to look at that again. Can you be affected, or are you even making decisions here? I know it really feels like that when we kind of have these options and really seemingly important life decisions to make, but there's so much pressure we put on ourselves thinking that we have to decide as a separate being. And if we can just stop and look at who we actually are right now, let's do that again together.
Mm.
Can your real self decide anything?
No.
So what's making the decision then? How are we making a decision? How does that arise? And if we look at that, if you're not making a decision, if a decision thought just arises in the mind, at some point, the knowingness of what to do arises. It could be after an hour, a year, a week, or a minute of trying to figure it out, the thought loops that you were talking about. But at some point, either a thought appears, this is what I'm going to do, or the body just gets up and moves to do it. Right? At some point, no matter how long that period is in between when we're originally presented with a decision and when the body moves to make that decision, there could be a whole lot of thoughts going on, but the end of that process is always a spontaneous knowing of what to do. Always. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
So if you can see clearly that you are more like the space in the room than an object, and that you're not making a decision, then that gap gets really, closed completely. So I'm not making any decision. The right knowing will come through the consciousness and into the body and mind, and then the body will act and do whatever it does. In that certainty, that right decision can just come very quickly, or even you might find the body moving before you even realize you had a decision to make. Then it
Okay,
takes
so
so much pressure off of us, It's like letting go of the steering wheel a bit, because we've been trying to drive our life in the right direction, and especially if we're responsible for other beings as well. If we're really honest, what we really are isn't thinking, isn't making decisions. It isn't trying to get this right. All of that is just going to happen spontaneously as we let go in that way.
yeah, that helps. I think it was I kept on coming back to the fear as well, and I think then that seemed to be affecting the decisions. That's all kind of going on in body and mind.
Yeah, and for me, any problem I ended up having, anything, like the whole time, it always ended up coming back to checking out who I actually am, and is this applicable to me? Like, is this actually something I need to? Because my mind was screaming, yes, you really need to make a decision, and you need to make the right one. But if I was really honest, I couldn't say I was making any decision, and I had to admit maybe I never had, never. And from there, the right decision always happens. Always.
Yeah. I've been very much caught up in even though I've been trying to, there's still been a trying coming from the ego rather than rather than recognizing who what I really am, I guess. So
Or maybe you've just been getting clear on what doesn't work. you know,
Yeah.
we do a
Yeah.
little research. Let me just double check this doesn't
Yeah.
actually work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is not working.
We're all very good at that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just always coming back to who, if you've experienced that, then keep going back to that and living it. And can I even make a decision? Let me be really honest here. Am I doing anything in the way that I think I am? And I always came back to not so much.
Mm.
And then manifestation has a way of moving in the highest way possible anyway. The thing that we wanted ends up happening, or we get a little learning experience before we get the one thing that we want, but it's not a
Yeah.
painful process then.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's whatever you get what you want, but it's not what you expected.
Yeah, had a few of them. Yeah, wonderful.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.
Yeah.
We'll go to Don.
I guess
Hi.
welcome. I guess welcome back.
Thank
So,
you.
do you feel like you're in the third world now?
I'm not sure which time zone I'm in right now. I'm still figuring that out.
Are you still figuring out whether you were more in the this is reality, or is your reality going with you wherever you go now?
It's more like I am reality, and I watch the body moving around a bit.
Good, good. Well, it's good to see you again, and the I guess somewhat live. I've been listening to you, and while you in absentia, and appreciate all that you've left behind before you went on your journey, and I'm very appreciative of your journey, and hope that was really incredible for everyone. It feels like I'm able to let go of a lot more stuff now, and you know, this feels like when I'm in the struggle, I know I'm lost, and I don't feel lost as much, and I feel like, wow, I'm dropping some of this stuff, and I'm not needing. And when I'm trying to sort of create something out of my ego mind, I realize that that's not going to work. It's never worked, and it's probably not going to work now.
Mhm.
And so it feels a lot. I feel a lot more joyous, and I realize, well, that's constriction was keeping me from being happy.
Yeah.
And there was the illusion, kind of, that we talked about that last. You know, if you get this piece, if you can play that, like you said, the dancing and the dance, and you're watching,
Mhm.
but you're dancing, and you're not really paying attention to, you know, you're in the flow. And you know, as I get there, I'm more like, okay, I don't have to go back to that again. I can choose to stay in the present moment and drop some of those manipulations. And as I have worked on this, and worked on it by dropping, you know, ego constructs and freeing the constriction, you know, I notice more in dealing with my family of origin, some of the driving mechanism that was happening, you know, the ego, their ego structure, and, you know, some of it that was pretty dysfunctional. And it was, you know, what I was raised in. And I realized, I guess, kind of what your experience has been, when you become more, you're not needing that and not fighting that. Do the people around you change, or do you just not need to engage, and you don't change and don't care, and you just stay away from the places where that take your peace away? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So just correct me if I've got it wrong, but For me, as it deepened here, there was a real, not at first there was a little aversion to it, but after a while there's a deep desire to really reconnect in family relationships and things like that. And of course, it wasn't a personal me doing that. It was the love of the real self wanting to emerge. And as you said, a lot of the ways I interacted with my family, friends, and people around me was quite dysfunctional as a separate being, as was the way that they were interacting with me, and took a little untangling. But as awakening deepens, you can see clearer those mechanisms, and it's more of a just an obvious choice. I don't really want to do that. I don't want to give my approval to somebody as long as they give me something back. I don't really want to do that bargaining thing that human beings do. I don't want to function that way so much anymore. So there's more of a going where I hadn't wanted to go at all as a separate being, and resolving things that seemed unresolvable before. And that was the natural part, and it's the same for all of us. Actually meeting the beings in our family, because we've only really met them as through our thought constructed self before. My parents, my sister, my children, I had to meet everyone again from this clearer place of they're not really who I thought they were. If I'm not who I thought I was, neither are they. Like, what's it like when we reconnect now? If I'm willing to release every misconception I might have about them, or any way of seeing them at all. So that's the process that we will all go through. And as awakening deepens, there's a real willingness to do that.
Well, like a little specificity, like I've done my brother's taxes and insurance, and he's dyslexic, but he's trading stocks online, and he can do that, but he can't do, or supposedly can't do this. And I don't believe he's that helpless if he's trading electronic funds and understanding the stock market and all that. I don't believe that is that. And I'm trying to, I know it will be very alarming because I've been doing that for so long. And at the same time, it feels like a gift. It feels like not, I don't want to do it from a hurtful place, and I don't want to do it from a wanting place, but it feels like it would be helpful to him to learn how to do that, and certainly helpful to me to say, without wanting, maybe I don't want to do this anymore until, if a medical professional tells me this is the best he can do, that he can trade stocks online, but he can't do his taxes and insurance, I will continue to help him. And I'm trying to get some clarity on how to keep my heart open. And
Yeah, if you find something that works for both of you. So as a separate being, we would probably go, you know what, you can obviously do that. Why don't you do it? I'm not going to do it anymore. Or, so you win and they lose, or vice versa.
right.
And what you said, though, you said something like it would be helpful for him to know how to do it. It would also be helpful for you if he knew how to do it. There's an equality in that where both of you win. That's the thing to find as the infinite self, as your real self. There's a win-win option. We're used to only exploring the win-lose option, but there's a win-win option if we will stay open to that for who you really are. So just taking a little time to figure that out. What's the option that, and not necessarily mentally figuring that out, just being open.
Right.
What's the way to achieve this so that we both feel empowered by it?
Right. Okay, that's good. I mean, I appreciate your, yeah. I take a good smile that I'm really happy that he can trade stocks online, and he's really good at it. He's doing well at it. And
Wonderful. Yeah. It's just love
Thank you.
emerging. It's just the real love that you are emerging and wanting to heal these dysfunctions in all of our relationships that we've had. So it's very normal.
Mhm. Well, thank you, and I really appreciate all the video trail you left behind for us to explore while you were
I
out
can't
in-
take credit for that. There's some very amazing people working on YouTube, but yeah, I'm glad it was helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Good to see you. Bye-bye.
We'll go to Nancy.
Hi, Helen. It's nice to
Hi.
see you back again.
Nice to see you.
Do you have any thoughts on overcoming your resistance to practice of meditation?
It's so very common. I remember really battling with this. Does it happen all the time, every time, or just certain times? And is it only meditation or other things, practice that you do? Or is it
Yeah,
just like your whole life right now?
yeah, things like tax returns, a certain amount of resistance to things like that, housework. Yeah. Yeah, so I think I started doing meditation with you like last January, and I had like an exponential kind of expansion of awareness and my practice. And it somehow was like, wow, this is amazing. It totally consolidates everything I learned before, but kind of just made me realize I'd kind of been a bit in the dark. And I felt like, oh, I see what I'm doing now, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And so I was quite diligently doing my practice. And yeah, I went on that silent retreat thing. What's it called? Vipassana. Naively, I knew nothing about Vipassana. I thought, oh, it'd be great. It'd be like days of like sitting in silence, and it wasn't, and it really annoyed me. And it was, I was just like, oh my god, this relentless going through the body. I hated it. But I mean, it wasn't. You know, no effort is wasted. It did really allow me to see the absolute insanity of my own mind. Which was great because I felt like I was really, unsticking from it and like seeing, that I could never really understand before that. When people said, "Oh, you're not this body and you're not this mind," I could like intellectually hear that, but I couldn't really understand what it meant. And then it was like, okay, I see I see this now.
I'm watching this chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, and then since then I have had like moments of real clarity, and I am still able to just spontaneously drop into meditation. But since then, I've found it really hard to just sit down and practice. Because I mean, I tried to do the Vipassana thing for a while. I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And then I thought, you know what, I really don't like this practice, so I'm not going to do it. Because, the most effective practice is the one that you actually do. But I really like your practice, but now I find it just really hard to just get on with it, just to sit down.
What's going to happen if you get on with it and sit down? Let's look at what the
It's going
resistance.
to be, I'll enjoy it and it'll be great, and the rest of my day will be great. That's the weird thing.
And then what's going to go wrong? What's so bad about enjoying yourself?
Well, nothing. I mean, this is the thing. There is still this resistance somehow. Like there's like a magnetic field kind of holding me back from actually doing it. And I'll find myself doing other stuff.
That resistance is trying to stop you from moving forward, because, and consciously we might say, well, there's no reason, I can't really see, but I would really suggest going with that question and staying with it. When I ask myself this question, because some days I couldn't even sit down, let alone do 20 minutes. I was just up and down like and I really stayed with this question. It was quite surprising what came up. It was, well, if I wake up to the truth and I'm having so much fun and joy and peace, I won't care about anything or anyone. And that was like this small voice that came out, and it was really quite surprising that was in there. But, and I'm not saying that's what's in there for you, but there might be something in there that really just needs gentle coaxing with a little persistent questioning. What happens if I wake up to the truth. And there'll be two answers to that question. One from the real self. Well, it'll be really amazing. Life will be fun. And one from the egoic sense of self. Well, am I even going to care about my children? That's what came up inside me when I asked that question. So just gently inquiring as to what the resistance is for. It's trying to stop you because, so just sort of seeing what that is. You might be surprised at what's in there.
Okay, yeah. So compassionate inquiry.
Just gentle, yeah, not sort of railroading our way through it like we sometimes would. Just and everyone can do this. We all experience resistance at some point. I still experience resistance even today. It doesn't stop me doing anything now, though. It's just like, oh, that's cute, but it's just treated with love, and like, there it is again, another friend come to visit, and it's not such a big deal. It doesn't seem to paralyze me or anything now, but only because I've learned to make friends with it, investigate it.
Mm.
Will be the effect of resistance unless we look into it. Then it will lose its power.
Mm. Okay, brilliant. Thanks,
It might
Helen.
actually even be a gift that's trying to show you something.
Mm.
Unwanted gift, of course, but
Yeah, super. Thanks, Helen.
no problem. Good to talk to you.
And you.
Thank you. So we'll go to Linda.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. I haven't really got a question. I just wanted to say hello to you. And I picked up the last of your talk. I might have come in late, but it made such sense to me about the wall of thoughts. From being in an open space where I'm not necessarily feeling really heavy with ego, just to have this picture of what thoughts are.
Yeah.
And it just sort of struck me as though, wow, yes, that's it. It's another untangling of how I see the world. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Wonderful. And that's all it really came down to for me was seeing who I am and then being willing to untangle that thought constructed self, right? We have been so sure about so many things, and to have that breakdown, be willing to have that breakdown takes a little bit at first, but once you see what's waiting at the other side of that process, it's easier, isn't it? And it gathers pace.
Yeah, it's like it's moving very quickly, and every day, every moment, it seems to change and deepen. And I think that what you always said is that the deepening just goes on and on and on. And I hadn't really understood what that meant. But in a way, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that everything gets rich.
Yeah, the seeings get even more wow, and the piece is even more amazing, and the willingness to let go of even more increases, and it kind of spirals up itself then in this delightful way. All that's been stopping that really has been our unwillingness, right? And that falls away.
So thank you.
Thank you. Good to talk to you. Okay. So we have a few more minutes. Is there anyone else that'd like to share something or ask any questions? Okay, PJ.
So glad you're back home.
Hi, PJ.
Would it be possible for you to just share, like, I know it's a big question, but your trip to India, I know it meant so much to you. Like, what was the deepest?
I love this question and I struggle with it every time, but go ahead, sorry.
Well, like the deepest part of it that just touched you so deeply. I know it was about gratitude but I mean, I just want to like feel into what that was like for you.
It was hard to put into words, but there was this letting go of any tiny little bit of self-doubt, a doubt about my ability to help others wake up, and all of that has plagued my ever since I started teaching. It's always been there a little bit in the background, and a culmination of several things, perhaps most importantly going to Krishna's birthplace, going to Papaji's home, sitting there with that there, and we went to several places, but just the whole experience of being there in India, where you have to just be yourself. You know, there's a relentless inevitability about it. There's the best way I could put it, and just this little fragment of self-doubt that was remaining left, and yeah, it was just a sense of really feeling like myself, on full power.
Wow.
And of course, it's brought up some stuff. The body's dealing with some stuff to look at because of that. But I hope that, I mean, I could spend an hour trying to answer that question. Hopefully, that gives you a little
I feel
something.
it. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're back, and I'm so glad you went, and I'm so grateful that you're my teacher. I'm
Thank
so
you.
blessed.
Thank you. Richard, probably, yeah, last but not least, I think.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can. It's nice
Yeah,
to
thank you.
talk to you.
Well, this is my first time being live on one of these events.
Wow,
And
welcome.
thank you. And I only became aware of you a few months ago. And I've been looking at some of your videos and speaking with a friend who's had more involvement with you. But the biggest thing for me, since I became aware of you, is the feeling, whether we want to call it transmission, I guess that's what I call it. And so I guess all I really want to say is that my physical experience of just the reality of your existence and whatever that evokes has been quite spectacular for me. And really, that part of things is so much more interesting and relevant to me than all the questions about thoughts and the mind and what's it up to and all that stuff. So anyway, this has been fascinating and quite lovely, and I'm excited about deepening my involvement. So
Wonderful.
thank you so much.
Has that impacted or changed your practice? Has it helped to deepen something?
It's just, you know, there's this thing in Buddhism where they talk about taking refuge. It feels like something I can take refuge in.
Good, good. That's just beautiful. Thank you. We all need that, don't we? So
Thank
yeah,
you.
wonderful. Thank you. Nice to talk to you. Thank you. We have time for one more quick question. If anybody has anything they want to, or to share something. Okay, I guess we could wrap it up there. A little early, but not really time to do a meditation. But here comes my cat again. just wanted to say I'm very, very glad to be back, and it's always a beautiful experience being here in the Awakening Together Sanctuary with everyone. It's like coming home to a family, isn't it, when we're all here together? So I deeply, deeply appreciate your presence, and absolutely look forward to seeing you again. It's usually the first Wednesday of every month that we get together in this particular time slot. So I'll say thank you, and I'll hand it back to you, Shauna. Thank you. Namaste.